ahead and start. Feet together. And let's take it up. So again, we'll do a short warm-up so we can have time to really dig into the second set. So knees bent, hips tucked, spine nice and vertical, shoulders are relaxed. Breath into the belly. Bend forward. Stretch the legs. Pull, roll. Yep. And hands on kidneys, lean back. Oh. And again. Oh. Yep. Hands on kidneys, back. Oh. Practice. And again. Oh. And back up. Hands on kidneys, back. And back. Oh. This time going side to side. Legs. Oh. And gently swing. And back to center. And remember over the spine. Hands up, kidneys leaning back. Oh. And back. Now carry the tiger. Oh. 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 Hold basic posture. Hips are tucked. Spine is long. Breath is in the belly. And draw. Forward. And play the feet up. Shift. Turn. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Swing right. Hold. Bring your hands and toes to the center. Shift. Turn. And hold. 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 And horse stance. Squat. And push. Mark. And squat. Toes down. And shift. And shift. Toes up. And shift. And come back to center. Walk the feet. All right. Well, it is getting easier. Good. Yeah. Little by little, the stretching and all that becomes easier. That's a good news. All right. So last time we took a look at the arm situation in the first section of 15 postures. So now we're going to take a look at the second section in detail. So just to recap, 13 postures are here. Get together, When we sit down, we're just going to quickly walk through all this. Remember, this is the basic posture. Bring the toes, arms flowing in, keeping space under the armpit, back is rounded, sit down, ward off, grasp the sparrow's tail, shoulders are down. Right? Press, creating that arc, that roundedness that connects the spine to the wrist. And drop the elbow, bring the hands in, turn the right hand over, shift the weight, strike, shift back, horizontal, vertical. Foot, rise up, and push. Sit down, turn, do the opposite on the left side. Ward, left arm. Everything is like so. Grasp the sparrow's tail. Press from the left arm, the left elbow, bring your hands in, Left hand over, strike. Back, horizontal, vertical, 7. Then face front. Again, same thing. The right side. Forward. Press the sparrow's tail. Press. Strike. Back. Drop the elbow. Okay. Turn facing. So now we would be facing the rear. Sit down. Forward off. Press the sparrow's tail. Press. Seal it closed. Finishing with the push. Now we do drag down to the side cardinal, drag down, brush knee, and play. So those are the 3 moves of the second section, right? Drag down, brush knee, play. So let's take a look at the arms, right? So the first thing, so we're finishing a push. So again, in the push, there's space in the armpit, so you're not here. It's nice and open. Back is rounded, meaning that the shoulder blade is not flat. The back is engaged, in holding up the arm. So it's that expression of power that went through the spine, and now goes through the shoulders into the hand, is expressed with the palm of the hand, right? So that's where we ended. And now we're going to drop and do this. Right? So that's the first part of drag down, which is essentially a rollback. So the idea is somebody especially hit you, punch the gut. So you're going to turn, shift. This is a block here, and then this is control. Right? So the arms have 2 separate functions, which is why the hand position is different. One hand sliding through space, palm down. The other one is palm side. Right? Head down. So you're basically doing this. So what's actually a little more important is, so first of all, notice that here my hands are essentially in front of me the whole time. Literally all I'm doing, I can go from being here at the end of the push to here. So there's actually very little arm movement. It's literally just this. Right? The movement through space is done because we're moving the feet. I ended up here. My intent is going to be to the 90 degrees over there, right? Here. So it's a 90-degree turn because I finished pushing here. Somebody attacks me from the side. Right? So this is the target that they're going for. So what I'm doing is I'm doing here and here. So notice the first thing that happens is this is the part of this is the target. I bring my toes to the diagonal and I shift the weight so that now that target is no longer there. So the first thing is that escape, and then I slide my foot forward so that my foot is not pointing in the direction of my attack. Right? So this is important because otherwise you get into the habit of thinking, oh, this is like an arm movement that you have to like really engage the arms and you're doing some giant movement like that. It's not. It's literally this. Right? Front arm using the edge of the hand or the forearm to block. The other hand, so in this case, my left hand slides forward. This is to cup my opponent's elbow. Right? So the arms are moving in sync, but they actually have 2 different functions. One is a block, or this is actually rollback. Right? Just making the arm sweep so that punch is deflected back. Right? So it's not ward off or anything, it's rollback. The other one just comes and just rests on your opponent's arm, or what would be their elbow. Right? Because if they're punching me here, I'm going to go and connect the elbow while my other hand is butt. So it's important so that you don't get too carried away with it. Right? The hands can still be, you still have that roundedness in the back, you still have that space under the armpits. Right? You're still creating this kind of rounded shapes with the arm. And we're going to keep coming back to these shapes. So here in this case, it's just that we're going to turn one of the hands sideways, because that's the hand that's going to, right? You see how I'm basically taking the shape that we have in the basic posture, and you're just now moving that shape through space. But it's the same quality as in the basic posture, which means the shoulders are low, the elbows are slightly sunk, they're not so down that you're closing off the shoulder. So if the shoulder is lengthened, so right, this is important. The way that you prevent the closing off of the armpit is by making sure that your arm is lengthened. And by that I mean that the shoulder joint itself is long, right? So my shoulder is not here, it's here. I open the shoulder, and that automatically creates space under the arm, right? So everything is long. The elbow joint is long, the wrist is long, the fingers, everything is elongated. You're not reaching, but instead of being here, you're here, right? It's sliding the shoulder blades forward, opening of the shoulder. That whole space in the shoulder is now long and open, right? So if you have that openness in the shoulder, then your arm naturally wants to create that curve, right? There's a slight bend in the elbow. The wrist is long and elongated, right? So the fingers are an extension of the forearm. So that shape is the same shape we're going to keep finding, the same shape that's in the basic posture. So here in the push, notice this is just like basic posture, just that you lift the arms or the fingers slightly, so that you're striking with the palm. But it's essentially the same position as basic posture. So here we're just going to drop the hands and then bring them here. Boom. Right? So basically this hand, curved, shoulder open, ends up in front of the belly button, essentially. But it's essential, right? But it's basically here. So you've crossed, so it's the natural position, if you were to just swing your arm, would be here, but we're going to bring it slightly until it's in front of the midline, right? Because the idea is if somebody's punching you in the stomach, you want to just push them slightly, right? So you just push them, and all you have to do is push them just a little bit, because their arm is not going to be straight. The arm is going to be like this. So if you push somebody's elbows just slightly, see the fist now is going to miss. Move further. Yeah. So that's why. So an arm is like this, and notice here basically right. So this is in line. This would be a punch to the gut. But if somebody just moves my elbow slightly, now my punch is missing. Right. So that's why you don't have to go very far. It's just right here in front of your own midline. Automatically that moves your opponent's arm off. And then since this hand is here, it clears that, right? That push. And not only that, but you've done this. Now you see how in combination of turning, the sweeping, and the controlling, you've made that punch or even that kick, right? Somebody comes at you with huh, gives you a heel kick, you go huh, right? And it's that turning, that safe. If you imagine a kick to the belly, huh, turn the kick goes with it. This hand helps to guide the strike away, and the rear hand control. That's why it stops at the midline in front of the belly button. And you can make that experiment if you have a partner, a loved one, long-suffering wife. If you just make them place their fist on your belly, just standing in front of them, if you just put their fist on your belly, you can see that you just have to push the elbow just a little bit for that fist to miss. So that gives you an idea of how little you actually need to work, right, with that trailing hand if you control the elbow in order to make that fist miss. All right? So that's why the hands just do this. So literally, you go from here to here, here to here. You're doing it as you're moving the whole body. All right? On the hand, the knife hand goes across, and then it's going to come all the way back. And you're going to make the tiger's mouth sitting against the back of the thumb. Right? So it goes here, all the way through, and then sits against the back of the thumb. Okay? So you want to end this transition move here with the left hand, in this case, in front of the belly button. The right hand forming the tiger's mouth behind your thumb. All right? So that's the first half of drag down. Because now from here, the hand and the knee, so in this case, the right hand and the right knee, come on. Come on. All right. We're going to come here and above. All right, so the hand, it's like drawing a gun. If you're an old Western cowboy drawing a gun. So you're drawing a gun so that your hand comes to the outside of your front. So then remember, this hand's controlling an elbow. So there's an arm right here. Right? There's an arm. You have the elbow. So your hand's coming here to here. All right? And this, if you're keep in mind that there's an arm right here that you just deflected an arm. That's why your hand comes up here. Because your hand can't come just straight up. Because there's an arm in the way. So you have to come above and then draw. And what you're doing here, the reason why the hand is on the other side, is that you're training yourself, training sense memory, right, for a compression hold. And by that I mean if your arm is cupping your opponent's elbow, right, the edge of your hand is going to go into the crease of the other guy's arm. So the elbow is caught between your palm and your knife and your edge, right? So it's not a grab. So the next thing we're going to do is yank down, right? But we're not going to grab. You never want to grab, and we never in Tai Chi we never grab. And instead, what we do is we use compression, right? So that you're not holding, you're compressing between the palm and the edge of the hand. And one of the reasons is that way you can just go like this on somebody's arms and just let your arms drop until they find the crook. Because it can work either on the elbow, if that doesn't work, it's the wrist. But your hand naturally is going to find the crook of your opponent's arm. It also works for the shoulder. Right? When you do a shoulder twist, you can just let your arm slide until they find that crease in the joint, and then the compression holds you, and then you can pull. Right? So the hands are actually doing this, but we're training ourselves to think, no, my hands come together. My hands come together. Right? So you're getting the kind of sense memory of bringing your hands together. There's somebody's arm in the way, so that's why you have the compression, and then you can do, right? And you can do this. But we're training ourselves to do this because otherwise, if we didn't, the form, right, would look like this. The form would look like this, and then you'd lose the instinct of putting your hands together. Very quickly, you start drifting. You just go, oh, and you think, oh, it's two hands moving together, as opposed to thinking, no, it's two hands coming together that have to have that contact. Okay, so that's what the hand position is. Right? Is that clear? So it's here. So that's the moment of compression, and then we'll see the same compression later on in when we play the pipa, where the hand comes here, right? Where this is also a compression. You're just compressing between your hand and your chest. So we'll see this idea of compression several times. By the way, the second reason why you don't want to grab is because there's a lot of techniques against people who grab you. Because if they grab you, then you can do all sorts of joint locks and things like that, right? Yeah. So Aikido, for example, has a whole range of joint locks that are basically the idea that somebody grabs you, and then it means that one of their hands is taken, but both of your hands are free. Right?
Yeah, we were long ago one where you grab the shoulder, you just take a cross hand.
Yeah.
Now you've got thumb isolated.
And exactly, yeah. There's a ton of counters to a grab. So that's why we're going for compression, where your hand is still free to move if you have to. So you have control of the opponent's arm, but you're not grabbing, you've not locked yourself where you have to hold on in order to control. Here, even if the guy moves, you can actually slide in, you can control, you can keep controlling because you're still on. Anyway, so let's keep going because this is important. So we're here, and then we yank. Right? So the important part here is that this is not the arms going holding down. There's a little bit of arm, but it's mostly sitting down. So your hands go from like slightly above the belly button the slightly below the belly button. And that's about it. That's how much traveling there is for the arms against the body. It's literally this, right? That's it. The real work is the, the sitting down. That's where the power comes from the sitting down, not from the hands. And again, we're here. You don't want to be tight against the belly. There has to be space. The back has to be rounded and engaged. Armpits open. So you're here. It's the sitting down that yanks the opponent down. It's not the arms. Right? The arms deflect, control, compress, and the body goes down. And that's where the power comes from. Right? So you have your entire body weight behind it. And the job of the arms is to transmit that energy, that downward energy from the sitting to your opponent. You're not pulling down, you're just holding and holding on as you sit, taking them with you. Okay? So it's very much the hips and the legs that are doing the work. The arms and the hands are there to transmit that downward energy to your opponent. It's not the arms doing it. Okay? And because we're sitting down nice and low, right? We're taking a bigger step, so then we push. And because we've taken a bigger step, right, because we've gone lower than normal, so to take a big step, and then we push. And we're pushing with the tiger's mouth. Right? So essentially, you're pushing in line with your forearm. So that's what the path of the energy is through the forearm, through the tiger's mouth, with the fingers on the other side. So that's the push. The hand, right, again, I'm sliding across the fingers, in this case my left hand, so that you end up very similar position to what we already saw when we did skillet close, right? Where the strike happens above my hand, my fingertips are trailing along my forearm, my fingertips at the elbow. Same thing here. I push above my hand so that in the final position, my fingertips are touching my elbow. Right? Very similar idea. You're pushing where you know your opponent is, or where you know you've created a space where you're pushing. Okay? So one thing here, the instinct is to think that now you're pushing with a hand. So the idea is to go as far forward as possible. You need to be sitting down, and it's the sitting down that allows you to go further with the hand. So if you wanted to go further down, now we're not actually going to do that in an application, but to show you the principle behind it. If you were to sit down, your rear foot would actually rotate so that you can sit further down to push further out. It's not, at no point are you shifting forward, you're not rising up. It's not down and then up. Down and then horizontal. Right? You yank somebody down, you step, which means you bring your foot behind your opponent. So their leg is here, because you yank them down, you step into their space, and then you push them so that they fall down because they're tripping over your leg. Right? That's the kind of application you want to think. The arm here to make them trip over your leg. You've taken a big step, and then you go, whoop, they're off balance. You've already yanked them off balance. Step in, and then all right. So they came in, tried to punch, deflect, control. You yank them down, and then push. It makes a little more sense if, for example, you think of this pulling the knee coming up. There's half a dozen applications right there. This could literally be deflect, control, and then a knee strike. Look. And then you step. But there's another application which is more fun and a little more relevant in terms of thinking like what are the hands doing? Is if you think that There's a punch that comes in, you deflect it, you come in, and then you use your knee to pick up your opponent's knee. Right? And I'll show you what it is. So you're here, and then you drop. So your knee is up. You drop, you step in. So now you're essentially lifting them. They can't put their foot on the ground anymore, and then you push them so they fall back. It's a fun application. You see it in Chai, the Chinese wrestling, where it's literally one of the moves that they do is that literally you pick up the guy's knee and then you push, right? So it's not completely made up. It's actually a technique, and it's kind of hot because so this idea that you're going to use your knee to pick up the guy's knee, hold it, and then you push. So that's in Chai. So that's the application I like to think of when doing this because that's the one that gets you more of the mindset of what's happening. Right? You're here, pick up, hold down, and then hook, and you're pushing them off balance so they fall. That's why you're not going up, you're going straight, short and sharp. It's right, drag down, down, all low energy, cutting off somebody at the root, knocking them off their feet. Okay? So arms, just do this, drag down, then along the horizontal. All right? So that's drag down. And that's followed by brush knee. Brush knee, twist, step. So from drag down, we rise up, circle, look back, look front, big step slightly to the side, brush, so turn, shift forward, brush knee is a great example of a combination of ward off and push. Right? Ward off and push. Pump and pump. And you can see because of the shapes that the arms are doing. So from here, when I sit back and rise up, so at the beginning, my arms are both doing circles. But once I come to here and I look back, and then I look front, my right arm, the front arm in this case, makes a circle. My left arm makes a straight line. Because those are the two qualities of ward off and push. Ward off is going to be circles, sweeping motions along the circle. Push is going to be a straight line. So you're here. The minute you're here at this point, we're now. Notice that what's happening is the waist is turning, so it's not the arms. And that's straight. Okay. So let's go back just a second, because from here, this move here, the arms here are full rollback for both of them. And this is why we're actually looking back. Because the idea is you just try to drag out to somebody, try to push them, didn't work, so come back at you, a big attack, and then you deflect, and you try to send them back. That's what we look back. Because remember, your intent is what guides the energy, and your eyes should look in the direction of your intent. Right? The eyes are supposed to be very important in terms of directing energy. Where you look is where the intent of your energy goes. So when we look backwards, because we're sending it back. So it's the most yin, the most rollbacky move that you can do, which is something is coming towards you and you go, whoa. And so you have one arm that's deflecting low, one arm that's deflecting high. That can be useful against either two-handed push or an attack where either you're deflecting here, but you're also deflecting here, right? Because you were here, so you're deflecting here. And then both are sitting back, right? And so you're doing circles with both arms. Circle with both arms. They're going in opposite direction. The front hand is going up, back hand is going low, but they're both going towards the rear. Right? It's like you're windmilling. Right? But notice they're both just doing this and doing this. That's literally Instantly, right? From here, except that here, the minute we reach kind of shoulder height, right? Because the rear arm is going a little further up. It's not just the elbows, basically going further up. Front is going here. They say it's like your hand is a mirror, so it goes in front of your face, you're looking at it, and then you look back. So now everything is pointing back. Hands and then eyes are going back. Then you turn, look front, and now sit down, big step, and you come here. And there's a point right here where your arms find a shape that they're essentially going to retain for most of the rest of the movement. So you were here, and then here. This is your chance to round that back, turn, and bring your hands so that you have again that arc in the arm. Now the other hand is here. You don't want to be too compressed. It's still rounded, right? So it's not here, it's still rounded, connected. But it is a smaller space here. It's a little closer than this one. So this is a longer arc, this is a shorter arc. But once you have that shape, right? So once you went from here to here, then everything else is done by the body. Because I'm here, I'm going to turn, open, until this hand is over my knee. And then I turn at the waist, and then I shift forward. And that's when my hand continues to extend. Right? Because remember, this section is ward off and push. Ward off, push. Ward off, push. You can see how from here, right, I'm doing here, like the stepping out into the side brings me here. So all I have to do is a little bit more turn for my hand to be over my knee. And then I turn. Here, turn, move forward. Okay? Because again, brushing, not about brushing your own knee, brushing the opponent's. We're stepping in and slightly to the side, because what we want to do is if we have somebody in front of us, we're going to step so that our own foot is right on the outside of their foot. So you're doing a leg trap. And then this hand is going to push their knee. So their foot is on the inside, right? Their foot is here. So our ankles are against each other. And then so when I push the knee here, it becomes a leg trap, and so that they can fall. So I'm going to help them fall by pushing. Right? So brush knee is very much tripping somebody and then pushing. So the idea is not that you want to have as much power in the falling hand. Pushing, you don't need it. You're here, you want to push them, their leg is caught, so that when you finish the push, they're going to trip and fall down. Right? So we're not looking for an impact, we're looking for a push. And that's why it's not a, I mean, you can have a lot of power, you can do it, but that's not the goal. Right? The goal is to do this leg trap, rush your opponent's knee, and then that turn and shift brings that back hand forward. So again, we're going to end up with an arm position here. So we've done this, and then we go here. And it's the waist that's turning. It's not the arm. So there's a lot less arm movement in brush knee than you think. Should come from the waist. The amplitude of the movement is brought by the turn of the waist and the stepping. Right? Because from right down, it's here, I'm here. So now my waist, right? So I was here with my waist pointed this way, but now here my waist is pointed this square, and then I turn, and then see, boom, already my waist is turning. So that's what brings my hands forward. And then I step, which brings me even more square. So there's a little bit of amplitude here to finish that move here. But then it's the hips turn, and then I push. And we remember our law of the diagonal. Here I am pushing up the rear leg. So my left leg in this case, my right hand is brushing. So this is the diagonal that I'm engaging. And then I'm going to turn. So now my right leg, the front leg is not full, it's carrying my weight. So now I'm going to use my opposite hand to push. Right? Left palm, right leg. So it's the shifting of the weight that determines which arm is active, which arm is full. Right? So here, it's rear leg, front arm. And then the minute I turn and shift forward, now it's shifted. Now it's the other hand that's going to dominate. Right? So the shifting of the weight is what shifts which arm is doing. Right? But again, here. So again, what you want to try to go for is the feeling of that connection from the back going all the way across in this arc of the hand. In case here, we're using the edge of the hand to push. It can also be slightly turned even more if you think of cupping your opponent's knee. Instead of doing edge, you can be even further if you want to cup. But you still have this arc. Right? This arc, and it goes all the way to the spine. So it's the back that's engaged, going all the way to the spine to brush. Right? So the strike is from here and we go here. See how this is circle, but then this is straight line. Circle, straight line. Circle, straight line. We want our push to be nice and horizontal. It's a straight line, so we want to shoot energy as straight as possible. Right? So you do circles and straight lines. Circles, straight lines. Circles. Which goes back to this idea I was talking about before, the three dantians as also being three centers of biomechanical transformation. Right? The power and the energy of the leg and the waist is expressed first as a circle, right? It goes up the spine. Then my arm, my shoulders are expressing it here as a circle. And then the minute I change, it's expressed here as a straight line. Right? So we're doing, this is a cool thing, right? So you end up doing two things at once, practically. Where you're transforming, but there's specific beats that are happening internally that need to be hit. Again, of course, when you're doing it, you smooth it all out so it looks like it's a single move, and you can't tell when there's a transition. But the reality is it's rear and then it's front, ward off, turn, push. Right? That's the reality of the arms. They're actually doing. Brush, push. Brush, push. Right? And that's brush, knee, twist, step. Or brush. All right? So now let's put this.
One example of the straight coming out of the circle.
Yep. Straight lines coming out of the circle. We're always going to see that because the waist, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like, these are the dots, like, biomechanically, the places of transformation. Because you're always converting vectors of force and giving them both direction and shape. So whether they're circular or straight, up, down, sideways. So there are places where you transfer, energy's coming up, and you're deciding, okay, is it going to come up and be circular, or does it come up and be straight? So that's what the moment or places of transformation. So, so let's keep going to play the bebop, right? So because we're here, play the bebop. So we're just on the right down. Play the bebop. We come here, cross the feet, sit down, yank, step back, rise up. Right, that's play the bebop. So again, here, there's all these different beats that explain where the hands go, or what the arms are actually doing. Right? Because so brush knee, we're here. So the right arm goes up. In this case, left toes cross. So foot goes, we talked about the feet before, so we're not going to go over that again. But we sit and we cross. And the important part, right, the arm goes up. As we turn, we're going to bring that hand and bring the palm up. Bring the palm up. The front hand. So what used to be the striking hand at the end of brush knee, because we shift the foot, is now no longer the dominant hand. So now it's lots of steps. It's not pushing anymore. So instead, it's going to come and rest in front of the chest. Right? So we're here, step, boom. It comes here. The elbow is actually up, not too up, because that means that the shoulder is tight. The elbow is slightly above the shoulder, but you want to essentially make a straight line straight back. Palm is down, it's essentially in front of the chest. And the purpose of that, and the reason why the elbow is that again, somebody tries to punch you in the chest. Well, first of all, you step. So you notice that if you're punching here, I am now no longer the target. Right? So just the stepping turns. So my hand that was here is now on top of the punch, my opponent's punch. So what I'm doing here is catch it. Right? So this is a trap. This is what I was talking about before, the compression. So the hand's in front of the chest because you're doing a compression. Right? If the compression doesn't work, it's fine, but your hand is still on top because you want to make sure that you're not going to get smacked in the face because the guy missed. If you don't put anything here, his fist is here, he just rises up and punches. So you're just going to go, whoa. So this is the protection, right? Step one, protect. Step two, compress. Now you hold. Now you have your palm. So you want to imagine that this is why the arm comes up and around, because there's a hand, there's an arm that's here, and you just blocked it. So you can't come up this way at a diagonal because there's an arm in it. So you have to come up here, and that's why we raise the arm and come across. Because there's something in the way, so we're going to go up here, right? Because there's an arm. So you want to go above it. You can't go that way. There's an arm. You have to go above, right? So that's why we raise the arm and turn when the hand catches. So this arm comes up and turn. So notice first of all, so that here we're going up and turn. Arm is nice and long, shoulder is open, all of this is nice and open because we're not doing this, we're doing this. And what you want to think of what you're doing, what's happening is you're throwing your arm out. Right? You're throwing your arm out. Boom. And it's going to connect with any part of your opponent's body because he's here and he just threw a punch. So you want to deflect, you'll be happy to connect with any part of the body, especially elbow or high. Right? So you're just going to go, whoa. That's the deflection. And then you turn the hand, and you'll notice that what happens is that the forearm is now like a rolling hand. So the turning of the hand helps to push your opponent's arm out of the way. So that's why it's not strike. We're not just smacking into the other guy's arm. The minute there's contact, we turn. The minute there's contact, we turn because we're also going to sit. So we don't want to just smack it to like smack your opponent's arm out. You want to connect and then draw that arm down. Because the second beat of play the pipa is a drag down. Right? We're here, connect with the arm, sit down, and this is the drag down. Right? So it's the forearm. If you're lucky, you get the elbow into the other guy's elbow, and that's what you're using is your elbow to pull down. but you don't need to. It can be the forearm comes here, and then you're pulling down with the forearm so that you're hooking. This is what we're talking about before, like compression, not holding on, but finding the angles in your opponent. So here we're going to be here. You can use your forearm. Your other hand is holding onto the fist using that compression. So now you can pull into the perpendicular, right? So that's why you're here. Turn the hand. Turn the hand. So that now you yank, pull straight down, right? So it's a little. It feels a little complicated. It seems like a little step, but go ahead.
If you're sliding down for that purchase, you're either going to get it or they're going to try to escape.
Yeah.
And then you're immediately coming and adding.
Exactly. Exactly. Even if this misses, the next step is to rise up and punch it again. So it doesn't. So that's why this works. Even if it's just a deflection, and then you boom, come back and punch. Even if you don't get any of the drag down, if this is a solid hit, you still want to hook, right? It still works just like that. You're like, even if you're slower than it comes in, it's a solid punch to the chest, a solid push, you still go hook, and that's still a deflection. And then you come back and right? Your hands. This is one thing that's underappreciated is that a lot of the time, if you look at the techniques, it will bring your hands in a defensive position, right? So your hands end up kind of in front of you here, floating in space. They're not out here, right? Even when I'm here, immediately it's so that I can bring, right? It's far less of a sideways move than it feels because you're bringing your arm immediately so that it's in front of you. Your left arm is here. Notice that even if it doesn't catch anything, if it doesn't do anything, it's still here. It's protecting. You can protect your chest, protect your face. So your hand is here, and then you just step back and punch. So no matter what, puff, deflect, punch. Or if you're good enough and fast enough, you've caught him, yank, and now he's off balance. So that's where you step back towards the direction of the original direction, the cardinal in this case, and then this rise up and push. And here in the form, we're just simply rising and pushing. So this can be knife hand to the throat, if it's really mean. It can just as easily simply be punch. So this would be an uppercut, right? Because you've yanked them, you've pulled them towards you. So it's here. So all you have to do is rise up. That's what we don't. It's not a far. We're not punching out there. It's here, right? Basically, my hand doesn't pass my front foot because I don't have to, because I've brought them down closer to me. So now I step and go. I just rise up and catch them. Right? You don't have to go forward. You don't have to reach far. You brought them to you. Right? I mean, again, they've already hit you. Draw them in closer. All you have to do is rise up. And that's a punch. The form, knife hand, knife to the throat, nice and nasty. Right? Or it's simply using the back of the forearm to push them back. All you want to do is push them back, right? Deflect, yank, push them back. That's kind of the standard application of just that push. Because we're nice, as practitioners of Tai Chi, this is the elegant art practiced by princes. So we're all princes. Princes are nice, well, theoretically. So we just push the reapplication, punch them in the face. Right? So that's play the pipa. So
I actually saw this on a show. I can't remember the show, but it was a Netflix Chinese series, and saw the application at fast speed, and it was a rise, throws straight arm, their arms connected, the punch was coming.
Yep.
Slid down off the elbow, jerk
well, it's like it's that same idea that we find in elbow strike, right? This idea of drawing somebody in and then your elbows there and they smack themselves right into the elbow. Same idea. You yank, so they're actually falling towards you, and then you simply put your fists and they're going to fall on the fist. Or you yank. So again, we come back to this idea though, or this step that needs to be taken. Where if you look at the application, there's these moments, like these beats that you have to hit, and it feels square when you do it, and then your job is to make it into a circle, right? So that it's here, 1, 2, 3, but the actual movement is 1. The actual movement is 1, and you're doing this big giant spiral. But you have to know that you're changing the quality and the direction of the energy in order to do it correctly. Because if all you do is, if it's just this, right, then you're missing on the downward. You're missing on the fact that this is first a drawing in before pushing back, right? So you have to have all of those. It's trap, right? Draw in, pull down, push.
This is all one like this is separate.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is, it's not just a movement along the horizontal plane. It's horizontal, vertical, change direction, horizontal. So it's all these 3 directions. And it's linking them together that makes it look, feel like a spiral. But it is a complicated spiral. It's not just doing this. It's back and down and then back up. Right? So it's this kind of this long ellipse that you're drawing in space. So if you do it, it feels, especially for your opponent, it feels like a single thing. They throw 1 punch and you do 3 things to them, but all within the same outburst of energy. It's just that there's 3 different qualities of energy within that single application. You just do it. So then when you do it for relaxation, when you do it with form, you want to invest what you're doing with the knowledge of the application, right? So that even no matter, even if you do this as gently and as softly as possible, you have to have that moment, right, where you're engaging the waist, where it's not just a turn, but then it's a sit down, bringing the energy below, and then rising back, that turning of the waist, right? Because otherwise, if you don't have this application in mind, it's very easy to just make it go here, and there's no engagement at all in the waist. There's no sinking in. There's no drawing down the energy to the belly. Okay. So you want to make sure, no matter how soft you make it, even if here my arms are barely in position, right? I'm not trapping. I'm not even thinking about it. All I'm doing is bringing my arms essentially roughly in position, but I'm still sinking down because that has to be part of the move, and then rising. Because if you don't have that quality of sinking and rising, then you're not doing it correctly. So it's better to do it like this, with the arms barely in place, but see that sinking, drawing in, and rising, as opposed to doing it here, where the arms are completely correct, more or less, but there's no engagement of the waist. Right? The arms are an expression of the core moving. The waist is the commander. The power comes from stepping, drawing in, and then rising up. The arms are an expression of that. Okay? That's why, again, we're working on the arms, but the real power is the legs. Okay? So that's the second section of the 50 posture, just the arms. So let's close it off. For now, let's do celestial tiger, just to bring all this kind of young, boyish energy back to the center, back to the dantian. So keep parallel, knees bent. Bring the mind and breath back to the belly. Celestial tiger, remember this 3 times. So Inhale, bring it up. Oh, that palms facing down. Oh, palms facing up. Oh, pinkies pointing forward. Oh, round the arms, palms facing out. Oh, up. Oh, drop the arms, open the chest and the heavens. Oh, backward the kidneys. Oh, squat. Up. Oh, exhale. Across the body. Hands. Oh, against across the body. And again. Oh, 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 oh. Together. And all right. Okay. Now, like and subscribe button. Otherwise, no one will see.